start that, Michael. It's all your fault. Okay, this is number 6 in the homework. So tan 10 equals 120 over x, perfect. Now, how do I solve it? Multiply by x and divide by tan 10. So x equals 120 over tan 10. Now, that is a degree measure, so I have no idea how your calculator's set, but you're going to want to make sure that you're set in degrees. And then 120 divided by tan 10. So I got 680.55 feet. Is that what you got? Okay. Last one. From the top of a building, a man of, oh, this is one of the ones that's a little bit tougher. All right, so we have a building that, I'm going to get a new marker. This is a big. Okay, so you have a building, and it's 100 feet tall. And a man is up there watching a car. So the car is moving toward the building. So the car's like going this way. So at one point, the guy looks and the angle is 22 degrees. But then the car keeps moving toward him. So now when he looks, the angle is 46 degrees. Does that make sense to you? The car's moving that way. So the question is, how far does the car travel? Now you want to be careful here because x is not this whole thing, right? X is this piece right here. Now you also want to be careful. See this skinny little triangle right here? He's not a right triangle. He's for the next chapter. In the next chapter, we're going to learn how to deal with that triangle right there. But right now, we have to only deal with right triangles. Do I have any right triangles in my picture? In fact, I have 2 of them, don't I? I have this little one right here, and then I have the whole big one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this, I already called that x. X is going to be my answer. I already called this, I'm going to call this, let's just call this A. That's this piece right here, in this right triangle. Can I write an equation for that triangle and figure out what A is? Okay, let's do it. So tan 46 equals 100 over A. So A tan 46 equals 100. So is A 100 over tan 46? All right, so let's just hang on to that for a second. We can type that in, no problem, we'll do that in a second. Now let's look at the whole big triangle, the whole thing. Can I call this B and figure out what it is? So that equation would say the tangent of 22 equals 100 over B. Would you agree with that? So solving for B, B tan 22 equals 100. So B equals 100 over tan 22. So we could type A into our calculator and we could type B into our calculator. And how would we then get our answer? Subtract those two. So without doing any round off, I think I'm just going to type, let's see, it's going to be B minus A, right? So I'll just type in 100 tan, divided by, 100 divided by tan 22, close the parentheses, minus 100 divided divided by tan 46. Did you get an answer? 150. So my answer is 150.94. What's my unit in this problem? Feet. So that's how far the car moved. All right. So a little bit of effort, but not too hard. All right, that wraps up our notes. So let's start review. You have, like I said, you have several review sheets. We will not do them all in class, so you are free to do whatever you want on your own. I think we're going to start with the pretest and see what it's got, and then we'll look at some of the other ones another day as we have time. All right, number 1. Okay, if it has a star next to it, we're going to use our calculator. This test is in 2 parts. If it has a star next to it, we're going to use our calculator. If it doesn't, we're not, okay? So number 1, we're not using a calculator. It says, find all the trig functions given that the cosine is negative 2/7. So I need sine, cosine, tangent. I need cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Get your iPad out. If you don't have your paper, get your iPad out and find it in Schoology. Now, here's the deal. You've done enough of these. Well, first of all, if the cosine is negative 2/7, then we know the secant is negative 7/2, right? Easy. But you know you need to draw a picture, right? We need to draw a picture. And that's where this part of the problem comes in handy. What does this tell me? What does that right there tell me? Exactly. So where is that? Which is where? In the 3rd quadrant. So this is just another way of saying draw your triangle in the 3rd quadrant.
What's this called on Schoology?
Pretest.
Is it in this packet?
It's in some packet. I don't know. I gave you a couple of different things. That's right here, pretest. Yeah. So he just found it. It's in his packet. Okay. Now the cosine is negative 2/7, so that would be the labels, and then we'll need to do the Pythagorean Theorem, and we're going to do it correctly. There's a few of you, again, I noticed this in the homework, you're messing this up. Stop and think. What is C in this problem? When you say a squared plus b squared equals c squared, what's C? 7. So your equation is going to be 4 plus b squared equals 49. Okay? You don't just automatically add these together. It doesn't work that way. This is C. So b squared equals 45 and b equals, oh, that simplifies, what is that? 3 root 5? Negative, right? Don't forget that. The negatives will kill you if you're not paying attention. And now we can answer. So sine is negative 3 root 5 over 7. Tangent is 3 root 5 over 2. Positive because the negatives are going to cancel. Now, cosecant, you're going to flip the sign, so it's 7 over negative 3 root 5. What part of that denominator is bothersome? Just the root 5, right? So just the root 5, top and bottom by root 5. So we have 7 root 5 over what? Negative 3 times 5, so negative 15. And then cotangent is going to be 2 over 3 root 5. So we got the same thing going on. I got 2 root 5 over 15. Is that what you got when you simplified that? or I should say rationalized it. All right, does anybody have a question about that one? Okay, now we have a calculator problem, so let's go ahead and do these. So we got secant 11 pi over 7, so we're just practicing typing that in. And then tangent negative 2/3. We're going to type these in. Now, when you look at this, I hope you recognize that's a radian measure, right? So, I got to go back and make sure my calculator's in radians. And then how do I type a secant into my calculator? What is secant? 1 over cosine. So I'm going to type 1 over cosine 11 pi over 7. Good. Make sure you are in radians though. So 1 divided by cosine, 11 pi divided by 7. Hopefully you got 4.49. I usually have you round these to the 10,000, so we'll say 40. Is that what you got? I didn't put any rounding instructions in. Okay? All right, now what about this one? Well, this one could actually have two different answers. If I type it in right now, second tangent, negative 2 divided by 3, I get negative 0.5880. Now, what's the unit on that? Radians. So, if the directions say answer in radians, this is it. I was in radian mode. I want to know the angle whose tangent is negative 2/3. It's that many radians. Now, I'm going to go back to degrees in case I wanted the answer in degrees. And the degree angle is negative 33.6901 degrees. So again, remember, this notation means find the angle, right? Find the angle. So if the angle is to be given in radians, you want to be in radian mode. If the angle is to be given in degrees, you want to be in degree mode. Or if it doesn't matter, who cares? Do whatever you want. So these are the two possible answers to that problem. All right, anybody have a question about that? All right, now we're going to sketch. So we're going to sketch a sine curve. And then we're going to list all that information that just gives us more points. By the way, again, from homework, we're noticing in homework, there are only two functions that have amplitude. Because if you think about it for a minute, all the other functions shoot up forever and ever. Certainly tangent and cotangent, right? But don't secant and cosecant also go on forever? So the amplitude blank will be empty, I mean nothing, for every function except sine and cosine. All right, well, this is a sine, so I'll have some amplitude here. All right, it's a sine curve. It's been shifted pi over 4 to the right. Would you agree with that? So it's a positive sine curve, so I'm just going to go ahead and sketch it in. I find it easier to sketch it in before I put my hashes in there, my labels in there, but it's up to you. You do whatever works for you. I know I need to label that point, and that point, and that point, and that point. Those are the points that need labeled. I also know I need to label my vertical axis, but that's always easy. It's 2 and negative 2, right? Because my amplitude is 2. Even if this curve had like a +1 or something on the end, the amplitude is still 2. That would change these labels now. We'd be going up to 3 and down to -1. But the amplitude is still 2, no matter what. Okay, what's my period? I need my period so I can figure out some of these other labels. My period should be 2 pi, but what has happened? We've divided by 2, so now my period is pi, which means that this end label is going to be pi over 4 plus pi. So pi 1/4 plus 1 is 5/4, 1 1/4. This will be the midpoint of 1 and 5. So 1 plus 5 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. This is going to be the midpoint of 1 and 3, which is 2. And 3 and 5 is 4. And again, feel free to reduce those, but you do not have to. I'm done with the picture. What else do I need? I need frequency. If the period's pi, what's the frequency? 1 over pi. I need the phase shift. That is positive pi over 4. Or some of you write pi over 4, and that's absolutely fine, RIGHT. And what's my vertical shift? Yeah, 0. I haven't moved it up or down at all. Any question about that? Okay, now we're going to find, no calculator now, we're going to find the exact value of the tangent of 2 pi over 3. So what are you thinking when you are looking at a problem that says, find the tangent of 2 pi over 3? What are you thinking? What's popping into your head? You're thinking 120? And then you're thinking, okay, where is 120? Hopefully you're drawing it over here like this and making your butterfly bow tie. Now if this is 120, the angle you want is always the one inside the triangle. So please don't look at any other angles. Look right there. How big is he? 60. Which immediately means root 3, 1, and 2. Because across from the 60 is root 3. Stop and make yourself add negatives. Are there any negatives in there? No. 1's negative, right? You're at quadrant 2, x is negative. Now we want the tangent. So the tangent is root 3 over negative 1 or negative root 3. Is that the quiz question? Kind of close, yeah. It's almost the same thing. It was negative. So that would have been a positive answer, but otherwise it would have been the same thing. All right, number 5, find the area of the shaded. All right, let's see. Okay, so this is 140 degrees, and the radius is 2, and I want to find the area of the shaded. And the shaded is this, right? That's a piece of the pie, right? Okay. What would be the area of the whole pie? What would be the area of the whole pie? Pi r squared. R is 2. So the area of the whole is 4 pi. Square whatevers. Okay? So you sit down, this is your favorite kind of pie right here. Your mom has baked your favorite pie. You can't eat this much though. This is too much. So you're only going to eat this piece, right? What fraction of the pie are you eating? 140 over 360. So you are eating 143 sixtieths of the whole. Would everybody agree with that? Well, in mathematics, the word of means times. So we have 143 sixtieths times 4 pi, because the whole area is 4 pi. So we're just going to multiply. Now, if you want to simplify first, you absolutely can. Certainly those zeros will cancel. And 4 goes into 36 9 times. So it looks like the area is 14 pi over 9 square inches. Now, if this part bothered you, then you are going to multiply straight across. So you're going to do 140 times 4 pi over 360 times 1. And you're going to simplify. This is a no calculator problem, so you're going to want to probably do some canceling. Okay? All right, that's not too bad. What's next? Write an equation of sine and cosine. All right. You just did this. Hopefully you did it right. Let's see. When you look at this picture, do you think of a sine or a cosine? When you just look at it, first of all, what do you think of? You think of a sine? Okay. All right. So if you're thinking of it as a sine, then its phase shift is negative pi over 10. Is that right, if you're thinking of it as a sine? That's where you're starting it. Its amplitude appears to be 3. And what is the period of the picture? Now, if you're thinking of it as a sine, it's starting at negative 1/10 and stopping at 3/10. Would you agree that's one cycle? So what's that distance from negative 1 to positive 3? 4. So your period is 4/10 pi. But you know period is found by taking 2 pi and dividing it by that number. So if we take 2 pi and divide it by that number, we should get 4 pi over 10, because that's the period of our picture. So 4 pi n equals 20 pi. It looks like that number is a 5. So if we write a cosine equation, it's going to be exactly the same amplitude and period number. If it's a cosine, we don't have a phase shift, do we? So that would just be x. Because it looks like it's starting right where it's supposed to, up there at 1, or at 3 in this case. All right, anybody have a question about that? Okay, so far we seem to be rolling through it. Okay, number 7 is a calculator question. We're going to need our calculator. Notice that the domain we've been given is 0 to 360, which means I'm going to have my calculator set in degrees, right? So I'm going to check that right now. I'm good. Okay. All right. So I'm solving the equation 3 tan minus 7 equals 10. So 3 tan equals 17, and tangent equals 17/3. Would everybody agree with that? Now, certainly 17/3 is not like root 3 over 2 or anything like that, so that's why I'm using my calculator. But before I go to my calculator, you are going all the way around the circle, guys. So you have to stop and think, okay, if I go all the way around, where could I have a tangent that is a positive number? Certainly I could have a tangent that's positive in quadrant 1, because everything's positive in quadrant 1. Where else could the tangent be positive? Quadrant 3. And we know that, people, because tangent is opposite over adjacent y over x. And in quadrant 3, they're both negative, which would result in a positive number. All of your functions, you probably observed this already, are positive in 2 places and negative in 2 places. All of them are. Tangent happens to be positive in 1 and 3. Okay, I can go ahead and label this if I want, but it's not going to help me because I have no idea what that angle is. So how do I figure out an angle? What do I have to press on my calculator to get an angle? Second tangent, 17/3. Please make sure you are in degrees, because that's what the directions say. Did you get 79.99? The answer to the question is you start right here and go till you hit the angle, till you hit the diagonal line. So one of the answers actually is 79.99. The other answer is all the way around to here. So how will I find that one? 180 plus 79.99. So what is that? 259.99 degrees? And there are the 2 answers to the question. Eight is also a calculator problem, and in fact, 8's the same thing, only what? In radians. So everything we just did, we're going to do exactly the same thing, except we're doing it in radians. So 4 cosine plus 3 equals 4. 4 cosine equals 1. I got cosine equal to 1/4. Now that's important because that tells me where to draw my triangles. Where do I need to draw my triangles if the cosine is positive? Quadrant 1 for sure. And quadrant 4. That's where your cosine's positive. Quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. How do we know that? Cosine is x. And x is positive over here. All right, so let's go to our calculator. I already changed my mode. I hope you did. Second cosine, 1/4. I got 1.32. Is that what you got? Now remember, your answers start here. So one answer is 1.32. We love quadrant 1. It makes it so easy. The other answer is all the way around to here. How do we figure that out? No. Here's 270. 270 is not at all connected to that angle. So we're never going to use 270 because your triangle's never going to connect to 270. We're going to do 2 pi. We're going to use 2 pi. We always either use 180 or 360 because that's where our angles are sitting. If you mess around with 270, you're finding angles that aren't even in the triangle, right? So don't do that. Use 360 or in this case 2 pi. So 2 pi minus 1.32. So I'll type that in my calculator.
4.96.
What?
4.96.
4.96? So those are the 2 answers to the problem.
So like, how do you know, like, for which problems you do like more than one triangle or just one triangle?
You have to watch your domain, and the only problems where they naturally will have only one answer without domain restrictions. This can always make one answer depending on what's written, but those are the inverse functions. So like sine inverse, inverse sine, sine -1, those have only one answer, okay? Now, I pressed that button on my calculator, but it wasn't part of the problem, okay? So that's why I have to do all of these. Okay, well, we didn't quite finish this, but we'll do that next time. I have, guys, quiet. I have returned your homework papers, those of you that gave me a paper, and some of you might have some questions. So, don't hesitate to ask those questions. What's the matter?
Thank you to like test out.
So second,
How we've all been doing Precal. So many people would buy it. Choose who's the best. I'm done trying. What? No. Our senior sport. Senior sport. That's only 5.
I don't think she knew that. She was confused because last year she did a t-shirt. Dude, I don't think she knew it was for Indian. I told her that.
Okay, so here's the thing, Grace. Is there any chance that you
Like moving? I can, yeah. I mean, granted, I won't have the iPhone. I'm supposed to be missing school. But
yeah, I know. But I mean, we are recording.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you recording the recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, yes. We recorded it.